I'm Richard Barid. I'm an elder law attorney here with Smith Barrett LLC. And today I wanted to address a question we get pretty frequently, which is how do we protect against a look-back period? And how do we protect the assets of mom and dad or whoever it is that has worked hard to put those assets away when they need long-term care? A lot of people have heard of the look-back period. I would say most people who come in to talk with us about elder law planning are familiar with the concept of the Medicaid Look-Back Period. They don't always know quite what it means, but they've heard it and they're concerned that it could wind up stripping their loved one of assets that they've worked so hard to earn and diligently save. So what is the Medicaid Look-Back Period? Medicaid is a social welfare program, and so as best the state can, they want to be sure that the people who are using that program are in fairly dire need and have no other meaningful way to pay for their care, even though they need that care desperately. So a look-back period means that in the 5 years prior to the time you apply for Medicaid, the question on the application is what assets in the last 60 months have you transferred for less than fair market value? And that sounds like legalese, and what it really means is in the past 5 years, have you given away any significant assets without getting any value in return? So what they're trying to prevent on a broad level is if mom and dad have, say, $300,000 saved up. That's well over the asset limit, even for a married spouse. So what do? Well, the first instinct is, well, we've got a couple of great kids. They take care of us. We love and trust them. We want this to be a legacy for them. So we're going to go ahead and gift all that money away to them. Just give it to them. We know they'll do right by us. They'll keep it around in case we need it. And that can be a legitimate solution, but you have to do it more than 5 years from the time you need Medicaid assistance, because otherwise you'll be forced Medicaid fraud. And so what you would do is you'd have to answer that question that's on the Medicaid application, asking in the last 60 months, in the past 5 years, what assets have you given away for less than fair market value? And when you answer that question, you have to not only say, for instance, I gave away a sum of money or I gave away a house, you have to give Medicaid numbers. And what they do is they take the value of whatever you've given away, they divide it by a number that is based, at least in part, on the cost, the average cost of a nursing home stay for a month in the state of Georgia. Right now, that figure is $9,034. Let's round it down for the ease of math to $9,000. What that means is if I need Medicaid help soon and I've got $90,000 that's going to stand in my way, if I give that $90,000 to my daughter, then Medicaid is going to know about that because I'm going to have to tell them when I make the application. They'll take the value of what I gave away, which was $90,000 cash. They'll divide it by that penalty divisor that I was talking about. And the answer to that division problem will be 90,000 divided by 9,034, and you come up with roughly the number 10, which means for 10 months after I'm otherwise medically and financially eligible for Medicaid and in the nursing home, Medicaid will not pay for that first 10 months, which should be somewhere around $90,000 in cost. And what Medicaid is assuming is that your loved ones will come back with the money that was gifted to them and simply pay for your care. And the state will not have to pay for your care for that $90,000 worth of time that you could have afforded to pay on your own. So it's important to plan early. The way we protect assets, there are many different strategies and they have different applications in very specific situations. But I thought today I'd talk about two of the more common, sometimes complex, but common solutions to this problem. One is creating what's known as a Medicaid Asset Protection Trust. You create a trust like that, you would put family members in charge. Those same kids you were talking about when you were going to gift away money, if they are trustworthy and if they've shown themselves worthy of your trust and have the ability to manage that money and apply it for your care, and at the same time have Medicaid coming in to pay for your care so they can use that $90,000 to bolster your lifestyle or make your life better. What you can do is set up the Medicaid Asset Protection Trust, make one of your kids or both or somebody else the trustee of that trust. We put that money into the trust and we wait at least 5 years, hoping we can make it 5 years. If you make it 5 years from the time those assets were transferred into the trust, then they're no longer an issue for Medicaid eligibility, because the question and what the state is concerned with was in the last 5 years, remember, the last 60 months, immediately prior to you or your loved one going into a Medicaid nursing home or Medicaid facility. In that 60 months, what assets have you given away? If you put the assets in a Medicaid Asset Protection Trust and you make it 5 years plus a month, let's say, well, then you're outside of that 60-month period. We don't lie or hide anything from Medicaid, but we give them what they ask for, which is in the last 5 years, what assets have you given away for less than fair market value? If you created the trust, do what we call funded the trust, that is, put those important assets into the trust, and then waited 5 years before needing Medicaid, those assets that are put in the trust are no longer part of the equation in determining your financial eligibility for Medicaid. Now, of course, not everybody's able to do that, and a lot of people aren't willing to do it. They've worked hard all their lives. They don't know for sure if they're going to need Medicaid. God willing, they won't need Medicaid, but if they do, they're not sure if they're going to make it 5 years. Maybe it'll be a little less long. They don't feel comfortable putting those assets into trust under the control of a sibling or their kids or another trusted family member or friend. So they decide to keep those assets for themselves because they've worked hard for them and put them together and protected those assets. And then something unfortunate happens. So instead of within 5 years, we go, say, 2 years along, and the person needs Medicaid level assistance. That is usually nursing home level care. Well, at that point, we do what's called crisis planning. And there's a strategy we can use called the gift and note strategy. I won't go into all the details here, but basically that strategy has worked well for us and for our clients for quite some time. And what it does is it protects approximately 50%. We usually say a range from 40% on the low end to 60% on the high end. That's not a guarantee, but in most cases, you would be able to protect somewhere from 40 to 60% of mom and dad's assets or your assets, whoever the person is who needs Medicaid. You'd be able to protect 40 to 60% by employing that strategy. It's a complicated strategy, but it works well. You would need a qualified and experienced elder law attorney. Feel free to talk with us, but if you're anywhere else, you're planning on talking with another attorney, be sure that attorney has some both experience and expertise in elder law planning, because this is a solution which requires some pretty precise equations, mathematical accounting in order to make it work appropriately. And so you want someone who's got some experience and who has had not just experience putting the documents together, but experience in presenting them to Medicaid and coming out with a successful result, which again would be somewhere from 40 to 60% of the assets we're trying to protect before the person goes into nursing home level care. So the two main strategies, the two takeaways should be, if you're willing to do pre-planning, it's the better way to do things. You can protect more of your assets, planning 5 years or more away from the time that you need Medicaid. If you try to do that, or if you're unwilling to do that, and we get to a point where it's within 5 years, you've got too much in the way of assets to qualify for Medicaid, then we go to crisis planning mode. We don't just give up and spend down all your assets, but at that point, we employ a strategy to protect somewhere from 40 to 60% of your assets. So I hope this has been of benefit. If you have questions, please give us a call or contact us through our website. Again, I'm Richard Barid with Smith Barid LLC. Thanks for joining me.
I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, then take a moment right now to subscribe by clicking below and turn on the bell notification so you get notified every time we post up a new video. Right now, we're posting 3 videos a week with lots of information about various estate planning topics, so you're going to want to make sure to stay on top of that. Click right over here to watch the next most relevant video about estate planning. Go watch it now.